Assalamu alaikum. Beautiful morning in Lahore. Today is 18th of January 2026. So, I was discussing about correlation, how correlation would determine relationship in economics. For example, if you note, uh, democracies trade with each other more. How should we know about that? For example, trade between European Union and United States of America is in billions of dollars, is far more than what developing countries trade with each other. Similarly, uh, if you consider that there is a relationship between income and democracy, mostly the developed part of the world are democracies, and they are highest income countries as well. So these correlation, how to then understand the relationship between cause and effect. For example, uh, uh, incomes would depend upon the extent of globalization as well as institutions. How to determine institutions? The most popular definition of institutions is, of course, rule of law, which is developed by Kaufman et al. Of World Bank. So there is a correlation between globalization and institutions. Countries which have better rule of law have higher incomes, as well as they are more integral part of globalization. So what you do is you put income, which is GDP per capita, in the left hand side of the equation, and institutions, which is rule of law, and globalization, which is trade shares, exports plus imports, on the right hand side of the equation. But then you take a multi-stage non-linear analysis, because there is a dependency between institutions and international trade or globalization. So you need to isolate the effect of rule of law, explain thoroughly through what determines rule of law and what determines globalization. So there is, at Harvard, Dani Roderick, Harvard University's Franken and Romer developed robust institutions. Rule of law is explained through settler mortality rate. For example, it is what settler mortality is, that the settlers, when colonization was happening, were building institutions where settler mortality was low. Similarly, for international trade, uh, the geographic constraints would determine the level of globalization. For example, level of globalization is far more rapid in developed countries, whereas it is far more slower because of lack of institutional mechanism in developing countries. So once you instrument those variables, which is institutions, rule of law, and international trade, through their instruments, you then regress the first main linear equation, which is income is equal to institutions and globalization. And then that's how the non-linear algorithm matrices would be formed and would be regressed.